Hello there, my name's Angus. I'm a GP and founder of generalpractice.ai. Today I'm going to show you how to use the MyGPAI platform. So, very simply, to generate a plan, you have two options. You can build a plan manually simply by selecting whichever condition you want to generate a plan, and then you simply just fill in the information whilst you're with the patient. Alternatively, you can send the patient a pre-assessment where it's an email they will receive, which will contain a link to a portal where they can fill in information about the particular condition, and once they've submitted it, it goes to your app and you can review that pre-assessment data. That's the most advisable way of doing it. So, for example, if we were to choose COPD, we would put the email address of the patient, we press send, they receive an email, and then that takes them to the portal. So here is an example of the portal for COPD. So we've got an explanation of what COPD is. We've got a guide of how to complete the portal. So very simply, they fill in the information about all their risk factors and habits that pertain to COPD. Once they've filled in the information about their risk factors, they can add other things, for example, their sort of FEV1, FEC, if they know that, their confidence and agency levels, what are their barriers to healthcare, whether it's stress, poor sleep, responsibilities, low motivation. Then they can add what goals do they want to have for their COPD. It might be they just want to improve their breathing or whatever specific goals that they have. They can then add information about what sort of things do they think that they could do to improve their COPD. The whole purpose of this is to really get them thinking about things that they could be doing to improve their health. Once they've completed that, they simply put the plan reference code, which they will receive in the email of the pre-assessment, and also the plan ID. Again, both of these numbers or codes will be in the email, and then they simply press submit. These will both turn green once all the information has been added and the correct plan and ID reference numbers are inputted. They press submit, and then of course it will go back to the clinical app, so they can actually generate a plan from the pre-assessment. So you press on this button here, and we've got four completed pre-assessments. If I click on this one here, for example, for COPD, I can see all the risk factor scores. So already I've got an immediate snapshot of the lifestyle factors or the modifiable risk factors that are driving my patient's COPD. I can see what their goals are, what they want to achieve. I can see what their confidence is, what their agency is. I can see what their barriers to healthcare. I can see what things they think they could do on a daily basis. So all the information is there. So immediately, even before the patient's walked in through the front door, I've got a good snapshot. You press this button here, generate plan. And then all that information is then put onto the management plan builder. So you've got all the risk factor scores there. You can change them if you want to. And as we scroll down, we can add any health information that we may want, whether it's blood pressure, whether it's any referrals, height or weight, any important metrics. We can add resources. So, for example, we might want to give them a COPD action plan. We might want to get them to do some exercise. So if we search for exercise under social prescribing, we can refer them to the Couch to 5K program. We may want them to do some smoking cessation, so I'll refer them to the smoking cessation hotline. We can also add reading. So these are high impact journal articles that will be summarized in accessible language. This all goes into one place, which is there on their app. So for example, if I search for COPD, I've got a few papers here, so they can learn about the nutritional state in COPD, for example. So we've got the goals here. Now, what the app has done is it's actually expanded on the original goals that were written by the patient. So I use a COM-B framework: capability, opportunity, motivation, behavior. You can regenerate the goals, or you can edit the goals if you're not happy with these particular ones. And then finally, we've got the check-in questions. So it's already generated check-in questions. Only done 3 questions. That's what was the patient asked for on their pre-assessment, but you can change that. You can change the questions. You can add more information. You can even talk to the app and say what specifically you want the patient to be doing on a daily basis. And then, of course, you set the follow-up date of when you want to see them next, and you can then you send it to the patient. You insert their email address here and here. Also, you can save this to their electronic medical records. This is the patient identifiable code, which will be unique to the particular patient. So when you want to do a review, you search for this code and it will pop up, and that's their plan. You can generate an electronic medical record. You can just select your sort of style, whether you build your own custom style or others. You can generate a voice note. The app will actually generate a sort of 2-minute podcast that the patient can listen to when they receive their plan, and also you can generate any referral letters. So once you've entered the email address and you've sent it, if we go over now to the My Lifestyle Hub, this is sort of what they'll see. This is an example of a plan. So this is their COPD plan. We've already begun it. So you click on it, and the daily reminders has been set. So every evening they'll get a reminder to check in. And so we've got all their risk factor scores. We've got their goals with the COMBI framework. We've got all the details. This is a link that takes them to the review portal when they need to review. They've got all their resources. If they click on that, it'll take them to the resource, or any relevant health data, and of course their check-in questions. Now to check in, very simply, you just press this button here and you select the answers, yes or no. Did you do those things? And over time that creates sort of data about compliance. They unlock medals if they've done 5 days, 10 days, 20 days in a row, and so on. Let's go back to the clinical app. So let's say now that we're approaching the review period. We can actually now conduct a review. So, for example, we can, if we search for the code of that particular plan that we sent, let's do that. Here we go. So we found the plan. So we can see the original plan here with all the original risk factors and habit scores. We can see that the particular patient hasn't actually done the review yet. So you can actually send them an email, and that they'll get a link to the review portal. And then once they've done that, this will turn green, and then you can conduct the review. So for example, if I choose a plan where the review has done, this is what it will look like. So you've got a nice green circle, nice green light here. You can see the original plan. You press this button here. You can see all the information that was captured in the review process. So things like what went well, what didn't go well, what was the most challenging check-ins, what were the most successful check-in questions, what would you change about your plan, what helped you succeed. So what happens is the AI will take all this information in and help you formulate a new plan that takes all this into account. So we've got the original risk factor scores. We can see what's changed with time. And we've even got the original agency scores, the original confidence scores, and then the updated or suggested ones, along with the suggested new goals and the suggested new check-in questions. And quite simply, you just press this button here, build new plan, and that transfers it to the management plan builder, where you simply just review the information, and then once you're happy with it, you set the follow-up date and you send it to the patient. And that's the process.